توی پسرو داد شهیدانو کور داد باتورانو کور داد باتورانو کور داد باتورانو کور داد باتورانو کور ساتوی پسرو داد شهیدانو کور داد باتورانو.
Good evening and thank you for joining us on this Sunday, September 14, 2025. I'm Salman Talash. Sheikh Saniullah Rahman, the ambassador of the Islamic Emirate in Ankara, met with Said Sani al-Zahiri, the ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Turkey. The Afghan embassy in Ankara said the meeting focused on bilateral political, economic and trade relations between Afghanistan and the United Arab Emirates. On the other hand, a delegation of the Islamic Emirate led by Maulavi Abdelmanan Hassan, Deputy Military Chief of the Border Police, has traveled to China. The delegation will attend a conference on cooperation and migration management, where discussions will focus on preventing border threats and facilitating the cross-border movement of people. On the other hand, the Ministry of Education says the new building of the Karwani Islami Primary School, valued at 11 million Afghanis, has been inaugurated in Charasyab district of Kabul province. According to the ministry, the ceremony was attended by education officials, project donors, the Japanese ambassador, and several local elders. A standard dormitory named Darul Salihin has been inaugurated at Kandahar University to accommodate 1,000 students. According to the Ministry of Higher Education, the dormitory is equipped with all the necessary facilities, including regular water and electricity systems, 3 daily meals, and a designated sports area. The head of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies says the organization is ready to assist across Afghanistan, particularly the victims of the earthquake in Kunar province. He told RTA News that humanitarian and health aid have already been delivered to the eastern provinces and will continue. Here is the rest of the story.
The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, the world's largest humanitarian network, assists victims of natural disasters and crises in partnership with local communities by providing both emergency and long-term support. In an interview with RTA News, the head of the federation said they have already delivered aid in various parts of Afghanistan and are working to expand these services in the future.
In the past 4-5 months, we have responded to malnutrition crisis. We are already responding to people coming back into Afghanistan for population movement crisis. And then the earthquake happened in Kunar. So in many ways, we are in a way stretched to our capacity to manage multiple crises happening in the country.
Mr. Singhal also emphasized that efforts are underway to make the Afghan Red Crescent self-reliant so it can independently provide humanitarian aid across the country without depending on other organizations in the future.
We also support the Afghanistan Red Crescent to develop themselves institutionally. What that means is that we help the Afghanistan Red Crescent to develop their finance systems. We help them to develop their volunteer management systems. We also support them for resource mobilization, international representation, and coordination. So eventually, the thought process is that the Afghanistan Red Crescent should be a very strong national society in Afghanistan, which can stand on its own without requiring international assistance in the future.
This comes as the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, active in over 191 countries, also supports Afghanistan's Red Crescent and works across multiple sectors, including migration, climate change, and health services.
Following this issue, our correspondent Yama Arvian talks to the acting head of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Let's have a look.
Hello, welcome. On a series of exclusive interviews on RTA News, today we have a very special guest from IFRC, which has been working on multiple fields in Afghanistan and the world. Often we think about change. In societies, we imagine big policies and even large-scale investment and international decisions. But in reality, much of the change begins quietly with organizations on the ground which help people on the need and give a voice to those unheard. Joining us today is Mr. Joy Singhal, acting head of delegation from IFRC, or International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies in Afghanistan. We'll be talking about their mission, the challenges they face, and even impact that they work in our communities. Mr. Singhal, welcome to the program. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Aryan. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
To start with, could you please briefly say a bit about I4C and its role in Afghanistan?
Sure. So the International Federation of the Red Cross, Aryan, it's the largest humanitarian network in the world. We work in about 191 countries with our national societies, like the Afghanistan Red Crescent, for example. We have national societies in almost every country of the world. So we are a network which is the most local network to provide humanitarian and longer-term services to communities on the field. We are primarily driven by our fundamental principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence. In Afghanistan, the primary reason for our existence is to support the Afghanistan Red Crescent to continue to deliver good quality social services to everybody in Afghanistan. To do that, we support the Afghanistan Red Crescent on 5 strategic programs, which are about climate and resilience, which is about disaster preparedness and response, health activities, migration and internal displacement, and gender and inclusion. Within this, we also support the Afghanistan Red Crescent to develop themselves institutionally. What that means is that we help the Afghanistan Red Crescent to develop their finance systems. We help them to develop their volunteer management systems. We also support them for resource mobilization, international representation, and coordination. So eventually, the thought process is that the Afghanistan Red Crescent should be a very strong national society in Afghanistan, which can stand on its own without requiring international assistance in the future. So that is in summary of what we do in Afghanistan, Aryan.
Thank you. Afghanistan faces frequent challenges like natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, and droughts. How does I4C prepare, respond to these emergencies?
Yeah, so Aryan, preparedness for response is the backbone of our work, because we need to be able to respond and ready to respond at a speed and at a scale for any natural disaster that can happen in Afghanistan. So to do that, we work both in terms of our institutional preparedness as well as program preparedness. Let's start from program preparedness. What that means is that we would always have our non-food items, for example, tents, tarpaulins, shelter toolkits, blankets, jerrycans, that we can release immediately to the people who are affected by the natural disaster, like an earthquake or like flooding. We also, institutional preparedness, what does that mean? That we are always ready to be able to partner with other agencies. For example, we are able to fundraise immediately to scale up our programs. So we invest both in terms of our institutional preparedness and in terms of our capacity to deliver program preparedness. We also have a network of our people who are not just in Afghanistan, but internationally. So we can draw down from them, and we call them surge personnel. So for example, in the current earthquake in Kunar, and we'll talk about that in a moment, we have been able to get people supporting the Afghanistan Red Crescent and the International Federation of the Red Cross response so that we can scale up quickly. And that requires preparedness and investment in advance to build these systems and to have stocks and supplies in place so that at a speed, at a scale, services can be delivered to the remotest parts in Afghanistan.
Thank you. Afghanistan has seen waves of migration and deportation from neighboring countries. How does I4C support internally displaced people and even those returned in Afghanistan from neighboring countries? How?
Right. So, see, as I said earlier, migration and internal displacement is one of our key strategic program areas. In Afghanistan, we have been working with the Afghanistan Red Crescent to support people who are coming from Pakistan or from Iran. And we support them in a variety of ways. We provide relief services right at the border. For example, we provide them with water, with safe shelter, with health services, and with referral services to the services that we are not able to provide. So we link them to other service providers. Then we also work with them throughout their route. So if they are moving from the border to the provinces they are headed to, we also then identify them in those provinces and support them, for example, in establishing any livelihoods program so they can get reintegrated into the societies that they are going to be eventually moving into. We also provide them with cash transfers. That would mean that they can meet their immediate basic needs as soon as they enter the border. But then they can also possibly, for example, use some portion of that money to travel to the provinces or to meet their basic needs once they arrive into those provinces. So it's in a way a multi-sectoral program, which is looking at both relief services as well as reintegration services into the society they are coming back to.
Thank you. So how do you prioritize aid when multiple disasters occur simultaneously? For example, when in an area, several things, or several like floods and droughts can occurring at the same time. How do you respond to that case?
So Aryan, as I said earlier, first of all, preparedness is key for this. We have to be always ready and prepared for the eventuality of having multiple crises happening in a very fragile environment like Afghanistan. For example, we have just seen in the past 4-5 months, we have responded to malnutrition crisis. We are already responding to people coming back into Afghanistan for population movement crisis. And then the earthquake happened in Kunar. So in many ways, we are in a way stretched to our capacity to manage multiple crises happening in the country. However, we are always driven by needs and we are always driven by vulnerabilities. So if, for example, the Kunar earthquake happened, we had to divert some of our human resources, some of our supplies from other locations to meet the needs in Kunar. And that is always a question for us. It's a dilemma. How do we have enough resources and enough stocks and enough people and enough finances to be able to respond to multiple crises in any given country, like in Afghanistan? So it's a dilemma. However, to come back, we are always driven by needs. And if required, we would scale up our response by getting in additional international assistance to be able to respond to multiple crises like we are doing in the Kunar earthquake right now.
Mr. Singhal, thank you for answering the questions. As you may have heard about the recent earthquake in the Kunar province, and many of the pregnant women lost their lives, what the IFRC did in that case?
So Aryan, it's very heart-wrenching in a way to see a lot of vulnerable people, for example, pregnant women and children, losing their lives and getting extremely affected both psychosocially and having a lot of trauma, and health needs have increased. As I had mentioned earlier, health and care is one of our key program priority areas. We have been working with the Afghanistan Red Crescent to strengthen their mobile health services and the mobile health teams. The Afghanistan Red Crescent also has trained midwives and nurses. And these were deployed as part of the mobile health teams that, as I was saying earlier, have been repurposed from other locations to go and work in Kunar. So the midwives and nurses in the mobile health teams have been particularly prioritizing their support to pregnant women, to lactating women, and to small children. We have been providing them both with physical health support, but also with psychosocial support. For any pregnancy that has required particular technical intervention, we have also been referring them to the medical hospital or to other service providers who have got specialized skills in treating these cases. But in a nutshell, pregnant women, lactating women, older people, and children are our most vulnerable priority groups that we focus our attention to. And health services to these people through our mobile health teams are being consistently delivered and are a priority for us.
Thank you so much. Can you say particularly how much people did you help in that case? Like those were pregnant women and those were elder people, even children. Can you tell me the exact number of the people you helped in that case in the Kunar province?
So Aryan, it is very difficult to pin down on exact numbers because the numbers are still coming.
Like an estimated number of how many people you helped?
Aryan, I would be very honest to say that it's difficult to pin down on exact numbers. What I can say is that our program is going to be looking at supporting about 150,000 people in the duration of its 2 years of support. The Afghanistan Red Crescent has deployed about 12 mobile health teams in that area. We are starting our cash transfers program next week to support people. So a lot of services are already being provided, and we are looking at a longer-term program support for these communities, not just relief needs, but also rehabilitation and recovery needs.
Before we end, what much would you like to share with our viewers, and especially those who might want to contribute or get involved? What much do you want to share with those?
So Aryan, I mean, coming from India, I've seen Afghanistan's age-old traditions and its customs were extremely rich. I have an opportunity right now to come to Afghanistan and see that extreme rich heritage and culture for myself. What I have also seen though in Afghanistan is extreme levels of poverty and extreme levels of humanitarian needs. So what we are doing from the International Federation of the Red Cross is to support Afghanistan and its people to meet those humanitarian needs, to support the people who are in extreme levels of poverty, and to help them come out of these poverty needs so that they can have a much more peaceful and prosperous life in their future. And that would be my message to the international community. I think we as the international community have a responsibility to support Afghanistan to be a peaceful and prosperous country. We should support Afghanistan not just by financial resources, but we should also support Afghanistan by providing it with technical assistance. We should support Afghanistan to stand up on its feet. Extremely rich culture should not be forgotten. And we should not forget Afghanistan, but continue to invest into it. That's my message.
Mr. Singhal, thank you very much for this interview. And thank you for accepting our invitation for the interview.
Arjun, thank you very much for having me with you today. It's my pleasure. And I hope for a very peaceful and prosperous Afghanistan in the future. Thank you.
And thank you very much, dear viewers, for staying with us. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.
ساتوی پسرو وینو دا د شهیدانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور دا د باتورانو کور ساتوی پسرو وینو دا د شهیدانو کور دا